So, welcome back to another episode of the Marketing Actively podcast. My name is Richard Naylor. I'm the visual content director here at ZOMA, and I'm delighted to be joined here today with Gary Valentine from Blue Sky Financial. I've known Gary now for a number of years. We've worked together on numerous marketing projects, particularly in the property sector. So I'm delighted to be welcome, Gary. Thank you so much for joining us. And for those who are watching that maybe don't know, could you give us the maybe brief synopsis of what is Blue Sky Property Financial? There's a few different things in the umbrella. Can you give us a wee background as to what all of those are?
Good morning, Richard, and thank you very much for inviting me here to ZOMA headquarters. I'm a huge fan of ZOMA, so absolutely delighted to be associated both on a professional level and outside of work. So it's
likewise, and
really
that wasn't a paid plug, just in case anyone's wondering. We are genuinely good friends.
I've watched you guys start from the beginning and to where you are now, and it's just amazing, and it's a great journey. I'm sure very exciting for you, and I'm sure the passion you have for the business comes out massively in everything you do. So I'm delighted to be here. So who am I and where I came from? I suppose my background was in banking. So I left school in 1984, and I initially was studying engineering. And in the 80s, obviously, we were in the midst of recessionary times, and everybody was leaving Ireland and going abroad. But I was lucky enough. I got an interview to join the bank, and the bank in those days was considered a good, sound, solid, professional career, pensionable career. So that's where I ended up. I ended up in the bank. But at the same time, while I was with the bank, I was always involved. I had a few businesses outside of the bank. I was involved in a signage business, and I was... I had a separate business selling signs to businesses and to household for a number of years outside of work, and I also was involved in running a number of festivals. More notably, probably the Black Rock Festival. In 1984, my role was to basically create a festival and run a 7-day event on behalf of all the publicans in Black Rock. So that was basically creating again. So this whole idea of creating things. So I created a complete festival from nothing, 7 days events, music every night on the main street in Black Rock. Created the Festival Queen Night. We had the Dubliners and Ronnie Drew. We had the full parade with 90 entrants. So a lot of things going on. So creating... I had an interest in business, and I got the excitement from business and seeing something being created and brought through to the very end. Mm-hmm. So that was going on in the background while I was working in the bank. And then I decided I would do a marketing course. And so I did a 2-year marketing course to try and shape some of my ideas. And in that marketing course, a long time ago, that was 84, 85, I did a thesis. And in that thesis was I had to create a business model. And in that model was... a financial services business and a property business. So basically we were looking at everything from the financial products, which was investments and life assurance, and then we were looking at the household and the motor and the business, and then we were looking at property. So that was way back in 84, 85. And lo and behold, I got on with my career in the bank, got very busy. Ended up out on the road for the bank. I was in investments, and I looked after 5 branches from sort of Mullingar to Longford down to Dublin, and we were very successful in that. We won many awards, went really, really well, and eventually it got to the stage where we decided, maybe we could do this for ourselves. Mm-hmm. And so that was in 1997, so that's 27 years.
My God! So like it's very clear from the very start. Okay, so I'm learning a lot about stuff that obviously I wouldn't have been privy to. But that's you clearly had a very entrepreneurial mind. Even talking about the various different businesses you were doing while also working in the bank. So that's I think is in you. Then it's either one of those things, is it?
Well, if you go back to my grandparents on my mother's side, My grandmother ran a antique shop just off Moore Street in Dublin, and second-hand furniture. And my grandfather was a butcher's, and his father had a furniture shop at the corner of Moore Street. So there was always business. I learned a lot from my grandmother, who taught me how to deal with customers, how to do a good deal, how not to rush in, how to take time, how to respect people. But a presentation, how you look, how you appear, first impressions count. All those sort of things always, it has to be a win-win for people to try and get a win. So I was being taught, and then on my father's side, they were involved in the butcher business as well. They had 2 butcher shops, one in Bagot Street and one in Ranelagh. And they also involved, the strange one for you now, they were involved in the import business, and their product was, they imported about 80% of all religious objects into Ireland in the 50s, 60s and 70s. So it was a very religious time in Ireland at that stage.
Yes, of course.
There was a lot of product.
And they could obviously see the opportunity.
Yeah,
but I mean, you were surrounded by very good business people,
really good,
and
successful
mentors.
Business. And that drove me, it sort of was in me. I feel probably me being inspired by my family around me. My father was in business, so there's
a great sense of, I don't know if this is something that you could attach with, but whenever I started out for myself, there was a great sense of it's obviously tough. There's no point in glamorizing it, because I think a wee bit sometimes people can glamorize going out working for yourself, and it's very tough. But when you get that little bit of established sort of a customer base, and that this is a service that's actually your business is starting to work and so on, there's a great sense of freedom I felt that came with that. That's really okay, it's very empowering, and I feel like I'm so blessed to have these great people around me, but also it's wow, I feel like a wee bit of a weight off my shoulders. I feel like life is a bit more, I can't really describe it, but that's something you can...
tuned in. I think you've tuned into who you are. You've actually, you've found yourself. You've found yourself in a position doing something that you really love. So all of a sudden, the stars have aligned and you feel comfortable in yourself. And that allows you to even grow more. That allows you to handle all that's thrown at you on a day-to-day basis, because you're doing exactly what you want to do. And I think that's where the freedom side of it comes out of it, that you're doing something you like, and you have to have passion for it. It's all right creating something and think you're going to do something. You have to have the desire. You have to have the determination.
That's it.
You have to have the enthusiasm for it. From early on, when I was involved in different businesses, when I was working in the bank, and even prior to working in the bank, when I was at school, I was involved in little businesses and things. I was speaking into a microphone. I was on the radio. I was a DJ in a local pirate radio station. But all those things gave me great excitement and energy. I felt we were involved in a movement. Something was happening. And I think when you feel and you're involved in something and you feel you're part of a movement, that creates great excitement. And that's freedom. You're doing something that you really enjoy and really love. So
and I think what also I would say to the sense of freedom, I feel I still work 14-hour days. I'm sure you put your... You really have to put that time in it. It's not every day. But from the other side of it, while it is very freeing, you have all the motivation and desire and passion to drive it on.
Absolutely.
You're still there at the wheel, but you want to be there. And I think that's the misconception. It's not like you can clock off on a Monday at 12 o'clock and say, right, that's me for the week. It's
absolutely. And I have to say, I'm extremely lucky. I have an amazing team of people around me. I have people, we've grown up together, basically because we've worked together over some of people that work with me are 25 years with me. I have a super team. So having a super team, clever people, smart people, enthusiastic around you. So when you're doing those long hours or those long days and things are tough and not always going your own way, you have a super team of people around you that have your back,
camaraderie,
support
and support,
you, encourage you, and advise you. my role as a company CEO, if we want to call it that, is basically to try and set out what the plan is, where we're going.
Yeah.
Set out of sort of our ethics, set out our standards, set out how we wish to treat our customers and what our culture is. And once that's set out, really and truly, my job is to step back and just make sure that everything goes right on a day-to-day basis, because everybody else knows exactly what they're doing, and they do it extremely well. Mm-hmm. So I'm very lucky to have that team around me. So that gives the freedom.
Yeah, absolutely.
I couldn't do it without them,
You couldn't, and it's part of scaling up a business, in that, like, we in ZOMA are like, people would, I think, look at the team and like, it's been very thoughtful process to get where we are. You can tell, I think, very quickly when you're talking to someone if they're a cultural fit for your team, and if they'll actually, it's not about having all like-minded people. It's about having people with differences of opinion, and given the right environment and supportive environment to say, well, look, if we do that, and then someone can actually, have a debate about something, and you get to an end point where it's a very thoughtful decision, and a lot of people are involved in it. So that, like, team is a hugely important thing in business, and like, you just touched on it there, and how important it is to you.
Absolutely. I suppose I worked in the bank for 13 years, and in different parts of the bank, and you could see different cultures and different ideas and different methods of working. So some good, learned some amazing things, but some not so good methods of working. And I always felt that if you're going to create something outside a business, you want to have a group of people working together that are happy to come in and be part of the team, and not feel that it's a slog or it's a struggle. We have to have fun.
Absolutely.
We have to enjoy ourselves.
Yeah.
It's we need the results, but we have to enjoy ourselves. We have to celebrate the good times and commiserate with the poor or sad times. But it has to be fun, because otherwise it's no good. It's no good, and it comes across to your customers as well that it's just you're going through the motions. So you have to have an atmosphere when you come into your building that there's a bit of excitement in that
and
building.
energy.
So, and that's really down to, I suppose, everybody, including myself, to make sure that we respect everybody, and that we try and create a good working atmosphere that allows good ideas to flow and allows good work and success to come along. Yeah.
It's very interesting. So just moving from one topic to another in a sense, but you spoke about the backstory of you worked in obviously in banking, and simultaneously were running different businesses and so on. But you mentioned in there, and just before we kind of get on to the inception of Blue Sky and how that's evolved, but like you mentioned about, so you did a marketing course.
Yeah.
So what was it in you? You had a silage business. You were running events. You were also doing a signage business.
Yeah.
So you had three sort of things happening there.
Yeah.
So what was that like for you back then, when marketing wasn't something that was on the tip of people's tongues? The internet wasn't what it is today.
No.
That was quite a forward-thinking approach from you, if you don't mind me saying so. What was it that made you say, I need to get my head around marketing here? Because I think that's a very important thing for businesses.
Yeah, to me, business was a bit like show business. You were when you stepped out in front of the customer, not necessarily a false show or anything, but you need to respect the customer, but you need to be on your game. You need to be on your game, and you need to bring the best experience possible. So the marketing side of it was to try and wrap all the things that I was doing and give it some structure. Yet there weren't so many people just doing a pure marketing course at the time, and it was a bit grey area as such. But I felt that I needed to try and mould the ideas that I had and try and learn, try and get some new ideas. What was out there? What was I missing? And I was in a room full of people who are also trying to find out the same thing and who also had an interest in business. So I had a privilege of sitting in the room with all these people who, some of them were highly successful but had come back to do this course. So I had access to these people. So I was automatically, indirectly networking with a group of people that possibly I was going to bump into somewhere down the road, and I do still bump into. So, so marketing for me was to put a sort of a foundation in there. So yeah, so that's why I did marketing, and it created the plan where I am today. Now it created that template that I created in that course. In 1984-85 as a very young person is exactly what I'm doing today. It's just basically it's been brought to life over the last, I'm afraid to say, 27 years since we set up. So
it tells me something about marketing, that while marketing hasn't, and I don't believe marketing fundamentally will change in the long term, marketing has always been about reaching your customers and the different ways you can reach them. And all I think when I'm talking to our customers, I would say it's just like the channels will change, you know.
Yes.
What's going to be the next social media platform? What's going to be the next thing that comes along that's going to enable you to have a quick opportunity, and then all of a sudden the market will be flooded with everyone doing something on that platform, you know. So
absolutely.
I think the fundamentals will always remain, and I think that's really interesting that you said that what your formulation of a plan back then really has stayed very true to what you're doing today. It says a lot,
absolutely. And marketing really is trying to, as I was saying, show business, all marketing is trying to do is put a spotlight on you. How can I get people to look at me?
And
how can I get people
and the
to
right
look
person
at me? And say, I want to deal with that person or that group of people.
Yes,
that's all marketing is. In the old days, it was anything from dressing up as whatever and giving out leaflets, billboards, organising busking events outside the front door of your building, running competitions. It's all moved online now, and the market is massive, and you have huge access to greater numbers of people. But it's still, you have to be creative in what you do, because there's lots of other people out there trying to grab that market as well. So what you do here in ZOMA, you have to be on your A game, because you have to be one step ahead of all those other people who are trying to do what you're doing, but you're just doing it better than them. And you have got the spotlight on your business. So so marketing is always there, and it's been there since the creation of time. It's so for me, marketing was, I just needed some, because I had left, I was doing engineering, and then I was straight into the bank. I didn't have any sort of third level education or course behind me at that stage. I've subsequently done other courses, but I just felt I was missing a piece of the jigsaw for me, and so I moved on with the marketing. And
that's really interesting, because and again, I'm learning a lot about Gary as we go through this, because we have worked together for a long time, but it's really interesting to hear some things. But so I think it's another misconception that you need to have all of these qualifications bang 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 in a row before you can go and do anything in business. And I think that couldn't be further from the truth. And because we see it all the time, with young people, that we would go into schools and colleges and do talks and just try and open people's eyes to the opportunities that would be available to them in the marketing sector from a career point of view. And there's so many different angles to it. And I think one thing that comes back from those talks is that school children or early college students are always asking, what courses should I do, what this should I do, and actually a lot of it can be learned. A lot of it can be experienced, and there are so many online resources that people can tune into to learn information that is specific to the industry. So from your point of view, getting into starting off in banking, what was that like from a point of view of a learning process for you? Did you find the actual experience of working day to day and building you up through the bank, how was that for you? I'm sure you would say like you learned so much just from that alone.
Yeah, like, so you start off as a junior when you come into the bank, and you learn the basics. My big thing, I always loved dealing with the customer, so I was always looking to work in the areas that there were people. So and I was always, dare I say, I was good at it. But that was the area that I focused on. So you had to learn the basics. So you come in the bottom of the business and you learned the basics of daily banking that you have on the high street, and then eventually you sort of gravitate towards the areas that you like to be in. So I wanted to. They set up a new business in the bank, which was the financial services side, and I really wanted to get involved in that. So I applied for that, and the training that I received then when I stepped into the financial services business was second to none. It was absolutely amazing. Just from every sort of how to deal with customers, how to conduct meetings, how to, give the best advice, how to make sure that your customers were comfortable and happy to deal with you, happy to do business with you. We had a huge amount of training. Never mind the technical side, which we had to do our diploma in financial services in order to be able to operate within the market. So we did our diplomas. So we received, and then we received a lot of one-to-one coaching on an ongoing basis with our bosses, our immediate bosses. They would travel with us a couple of weeks at a time to all the meetings and sit in with us. So we were receiving really high-end, excellent training. So if you look at the university route for somebody, I came into the banking and I learned it from the ground up. I then moved into financial services. I was trained at a very high level. We had to study, we had to do our diplomas, we had to get the exam part of it out, but we got amazing real life skills that stick with us. How time management, how to run your diary, how to be efficient, how to appear, how to behave.
Things that
so these are what kids can do.
Yeah.
Going in at a very end, it's not all. University has its place and its education has its place. Absolutely wonderful, but there are other routes for kids, and I think the big thing with young people is if they have an enthusiasm and they have a desire, as I mentioned earlier, and the determination to do something. It's not all about going down the official route. There are plenty of opportunities out there, and plenty of businesses that will give opportunity if they see something in somebody. At the moment now, I have a young girl working for me on the auctioneering side, and she's excellent, and we're now going to put her through the official apprenticeship that you can put on the auctioneering side. So she's going to do her 2-year apprenticeship. She'll be qualified auctioneer, estate agent at the end of 2 years, and she's learning on the job. She goes to college 1 day a week in Dublin, and then she brings all that back, and apart from her day-to-day as well, she's learning the business and how we operate and how we conduct ourselves and what we expect and how tough it is out there and what you need to do to be successful. So that's a route where it's not the official college route. It's 1 day a week. It's an apprenticeship scheme. And that's a super way of doing it.
Super. And like, don't get me wrong, I'm not bashing third level.
Absolutely
I think what I was sort of saying is like, if you are someone who has an innate interest in something and it's like a certain sector, I think it's like, go for it. You know what I mean? And okay, fair enough. If the only route through is you got to go through third level, so be it. You have the passion there to do it. But I think there are other areas like you've just spoken about where you got in and got direct experience. And you've subsequently had your training through that and subsequently gone on and done third level education through your career.
Absolutely.
So it's something that can third level nearly supplements nearly after the fact. When you're like, right, okay, I see an opportunity for a really good course here and I think it would really add something to my skill set and that's where you go for it. But that's what I think in terms of third level. But moving on, I suppose, you, I think, got into, a little bit about Blue Sky. So if we could maybe get into where did the idea for Blue Sky come from,
Okay.
and how did you go about like actioning that?
Okay.
All them years ago.
Yeah, so I suppose having done my 13-year apprenticeship, part formal and part informal, and running a number of other businesses, I had a great career in the bank. I really enjoyed working with the people. Some of my closest friends were my immediate bosses. But it came a time where I felt, I needed to do this for myself. And at that stage, that was in 1997. Just decided, I think I can do this. And I went into business initially with another guy who had worked in the bank, Paddy Green. And the two of us had the same sort of idea and goals and ambition. And basically, we just did up a business plan and said, "Look, let's go for it." And we set up initially. It wasn't the Blue Sky business. It was we had a franchise agreement with Permanent TSB, and we had an office in RD, and we ran that office for 10 years. But we also, at the same time, we opened an office in 45 Dublin Street in 1997, and that became actually a company called the Mortgage Company, because the mortgage market was beginning to evolve and change at that time, and we had worked in the banks. We had first-hand training. We knew the banking business inside out, certainly the mortgage business, and we were well respected within the banks. And agencies were then being given out. So we ended up, we were in a mortgage broker acting for all the main banks. And we traded as the mortgage company in Dundalk, and then we opened another office in Drogheda. We opened an office in Dublin, in Raheny in Dublin, and one in Navan. So we had 5 offices, and we were trading as the mortgage company. And we were probably one of the biggest mortgage brokers outside of Dublin, and probably in the top 6 in the country for volume of business. And we eventually met a group of like-minded people who had the same sort of ambitions and goals and drives as us, and we decided to form a franchise called Blue Sky Mortgages. So that franchise, we had 6 directors, and we had a franchise of 35 offices dotted throughout Ireland, from Donegal to Cork, Kerry, around Dublin, and we were lending about 1.5 billion in lending on a yearly basis. So with that branding, we're talking about branding actually, which ties into ZOMA. The reason we formed Blue Sky, we felt if we had a franchise and a brand throughout the country, our business would grow. It would feed off the brand, just like you have a Super Value, so you have a Tesco's, you have. We were the mortgage company, Blue Sky. Not the mortgage company. We were Blue Sky Mortgages. So we launched it in 2003, 2004 in Killinard, the Heritage in Killinard, just outside Portarlington. And the minister at the time, Brian Cowan, came down and did the official launch, and it got national media attention. And that's where the Blue Sky branding came from. We took a brave decision to change from the mortgage company to Blue Sky. So we were dropping all that branding that we'd built up as the mortgage company to switch to Blue Sky. But we felt it was for the greater good, and that's where the name Blue Sky came from. Sitting around a kitchen table looking at names and figuring out where we would, what were we going to call this, and we came up with the name of Blue Sky, and it became Blue Sky Mortgages. So
tell me about when that came about for yourselves, and obviously the reasons for it and so on are kind of self-evident, but if you could discuss some of the reasons why you thought the rebrand was justified at that time, and maybe get into some of the details around that.
I suppose, as I say, we were trading as a company called the Mortgage Company, very successful. We had an office in Drogheda. We had our own office in Drogheda. We had an office in Dublin, Navan. Dundalk. Business was really good. So we were primarily the mortgage business, but we had started dabbled into the insurance business at that, not the life and pensions and investments, which is another part of our business, but more onto the household insurance. But anyway, we were running the mortgage company, but we felt there was a bigger opportunity here. So, and that, it was a brave decision to change your name, because you had built up at this stage you'd built up 6-7 years of really good branding. You'd spent a lot of money, you know all about branding and what you have to invest. So we'd invest an awful lot of money in our brand, but we felt we need to be bigger than this, we need to be better than this, and we need to be brave. So and that's we took the decision, having met this group of individuals at different events, that we had a lot in common. We were all highly driven. We ran good businesses, reputable businesses, and we felt we could set up a really good brand. So yeah, we took the decision, and it worked. It worked, and it got us. It increased our business by at least 20%, and we got a lot. We were able to. We could get in front of the bankers. We could develop products. We were able to get in front of the banking people, because we now had collectively a massive buying power. So that power and strength behind a brand got you in front of people. You could lift the phone and talk to the top tier in any bank in the country, and have mutual respect, but could discuss opportunities, our new products that could benefit them and benefit us, and benefit the customers, obviously, number one. So that's where the branding went. And outside, so once we had rebranded as Blue Sky Mortgages, we then had other businesses. So we had Blue Sky Insurance. So Blue Sky Insurance was beginning to start. That started in 2001 and 2, 3 with Marguerite Riley, who works for me, and Marguerite's been there from day one. And we formed, because we were doing a lot of house insurance along with doing a mortgage product.
Yeah, they kind of go hand in hand.
They go hand in hand, and we're back to this thesis that we did about a one-stop shop, a complete commercial package. So we had a mortgage product, we had a life assurance product. Now we had an insurance product. So we set up Blue Sky Insurances. So we Blue Sky Mortgages, we Blue Sky Insurances, and that's been highly successful. And I have a great team again, both commercial team and personal lines team. And that business doing really well, and thanks to ZOMA. Actually, over in the last, since ZOMA, talk about rebranding, ZOMA was marketing for me.
Yeah, absolutely. I was just going to go there.
Yeah,
I think it's like we're obviously in two different sectors, and we're two different types of business, but rebranding can be justified, I think, in a lot of different sectors. If you feel, I think sometimes with a business, if you feel there's a number of different reasons why you rebrand. For us, the reason for the rebrand was that just like yourselves, I think we were all separate. Myself, David, Chris, we had expertise in different areas of marketing, and we felt, well, a customer doesn't want to come to, Richard Naylor and have to, get their photography or come up with, video concepts or campaigns, whatever. They don't want to just go to me and then all of a sudden they're having a meeting with David, but there's a misalignment there. Yeah. They want to actually meet under the same umbrella, and they want to know that, okay, this is the strategy going forward. And that's the benefit of a really good agency, in my opinion, that offers multiple services.
Absolutely.
Is that you get the right consultation from the start, because that something that's happened that we see a lot in marketing is that there can be a lot of people that aren't simple using joint up thinking, like